Salim then went on to say, "Wait, there's a big opening in when we fell in from. And look at all the debris. Hold on, maybe we could stack something to where we could climb out of this giant sinkhole that we fell in on. Maybe we could do that. Hurry, it's getting dark." And yeah, that's what we found Salim and Jacob doing. And I heard that Salim even said to Jake, "You know, Jacob, you actually remind me of my own son." And he said, "Oh, you have a son?" And he said, "Yes, I do. His name's Zayn. And I also have a wife." And he said, yeah, I bet you have multiple wives. How old are they?" And he said, No, I have just one wife. Not all Muslims have multiple wives. In fact, I don't know if multiple wives would have me, but no. My wife is 43. And Jake said, "Oh, years old? All right, good. I'm just glad that you didn't marry a child." Me too. No, I wasn't accusing you of being a pedophile or anything. I'm just definitely glad that you're not one. And Salim said, No, it's okay. No need. And Jake said, I actually really appreciate you helping us get out of here. Well, what do you think you'll do when we get out of here? And he said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't have a farm anymore, so essentially I don't have a job, and I'll have to go back to my wife in Baghdad." And Jake said, "Well, sometimes we need an informant on the streets. So I'm sure I could talk to somebody and get you a job at Stars. You won't even have to leave your city. We just need an informant. And you're not going to be informing on that many criminals. You're mostly going to be informing us on stuff like this. Or any kind of strange cult." Yeah. And he said, "Oh, well, I appreciate the job offer, Jake, and I'll consider it." And then, and meanwhile, while that was going on, me, Dylan, and the other members of the Stars Squad were looking for Mia. And we heard her scream, and I ran right towards her. But she was surrounded by those big, giant bat creatures. So I raised my gun, and we got to shooting. And it felt like me and Mia, it felt like we were at the shooting range again at Stars headquarters. Yeah, we were having some fun. We were smiling and laughing while shooting all those vampire bats. And then, out of nowhere, a vampire bat came behind me and bit me right on the neck and shoulder. But Mia was always a pretty good shot, so she snapped around and then shot it right in the head. And it dragged me down as it fell. But I was able to pull the fangs out. And then the wound in my neck and shoulder got smaller and smaller, and then it stopped bleeding. Although I had gotten some blood on my officer's uniform, but, well, better that than being dead or having a big-ass bandage wrapped around my neck. Alright. And then I said, thank you for that, Mia. Really, I do. I do appreciate you for that. And you know, Mia, I know this might be an awkward time to have this conversation, but I really do miss you sometimes, Mia. In fact, I've missed you these almost 3 months now. I've missed you. And she says, you know what, I miss you too, Ethan, but I miss you while you're on these crazy missions, you know? So now you do kind of know how it feels, you know? You kind of know how it feels, how it felt when you went to Germany to go find our daughter, and I'm glad you did, but you kind of know how I felt during all that, you know? And I just don't want to be the stay-at-home mom while you get to go out and have all these adventures. And I said, trust me, Mia, they're not adventures. They're near-death experiences. But hey, if you really want to go so bad, I'll take you with me on the next one we find, okay? And she said, all right, okay. And Dylan interjected and said, okay, you gonna kiss now? And I said, I don't know, Mia, should we kiss? And she looked at me kind of weird, and she said, no, well, let's do that later. All right. She said later, guys. And Boris cheered. And then, out of nowhere, Dylan stopped and then said, wait a minute, hold on. Guys, my radars, it's showing that there could be this big underground colony of these things. And I said, no, we'll find a way out of here. We're not going to go fight them, and we're not going to go kill them. And Dylan said, wait, hold on, guys. I feel like we should at least bring these guys back, one of these guys back to the surface to study. And I said, okay. All right, Dylan, since it was your idea, pick up one of these giant bat creatures and Boris will help you. And so we carried him back. And then Jake came over the radio and said, hey guys, the opening from where we fell in, we've created like a stepladder to help get us back to the surface. And we all could have kissed Jake then. So we rushed back, and then Boris immediately raised his rifle. But then Jake came in and said, wait, stop. Don't hurt him. He helped me. He helped me do this. And Boris said, yeah, and how do we know we can trust this guy? And Jake said, because he's helping us get out. And Boris thought for a minute and said, okay, fair enough. And then Salim gawked and said, why the hell are you bringing that thing? And Dylan said, we need to study it. And let me tell you, it sure felt good to be climbing back up to the surface. But as soon as Dylan and Boris started carrying that bat creature, they picked it up to the surface and put it up, and then it was immediately hit by a ray of late afternoon sunlight, and a little bit of steam came out of its body, and it started to sizzle and sizzle. And then we all realized, sunlight, its weakness is sunlight. And so we grabbed that thing and we hid it underneath a bush, away from the sun. And Dylan said, well, call me Bella, because we've experienced some vampires. And I said, oh, great. We're real fucking peachy out here. I have now experienced werewolves and vampires in a 1-year period. Oh, great. Not even a 1-year period, a 6-month period. Oh, yeah. Great. So there's vampires and werewolves. Only this vampire isn't hot. It's a giant bat creature. And then we called Barry over the radio. But Barry said he would be there in about 10 to 15 minutes. But the problem was the sun was going down. And it was going down kind of quick. And we radioed back and said, Barry, can you hurry? Because I don't feel comfortable staying here. And he said, well, I'm in the chopper now. I'm coming as fast as I can. And then the sun went down. And then I saw those wing-like, claw-like bat fingers start to come out. And then, raise the guns! We need to defend ourselves. And then they let out this little screeching roar type sound. And we raised our guns and we fired. And then they took to the skies. And we had to really concentrate on firing there. But we fired. We kept emptying our mags right onto that thing. And then it fell with a thud. And then 2 more of its buddies came out. And then the vampire bats, they looked distressed. Almost as if something loud was coming. And something loud was coming. Barry with the helicopter. Oh. Seeing Barry in the helicopter was like watching Jesus descend from the sky. And we ran as fast as we could. And the helicopter was about 4 feet off the ground, but we started climbing in there anyway. And then I said, wait, Dylan, what about the bat vampire specimen thing that you wanted to bring? And Dylan said, yeah, fuck that. We need to leave. Fuck that. And so we all climbed in. But just before Salim could be left, Jake immediately pulled out his hand and extended it to Salim. And he grabbed it. And then Jake grabbed the side of the door and started pulling Salim up. And then Barry looked over and said, wait, why are you helping a Muslim in here? And Jake said, he's a friend. And he said, wait, where's Chris? And I said, Barry, we'll explain along the way. Let's go. And then that night, we were back on base. And it was kind of frustrating playing 20 questions with Captain Kolchak, but we got through it. And then the STARS investigative team came in. And shortly after that, the next day, we were back at that site, but this time, we were there for a bombing raid. And essentially, STARS just put a shitload of explosives down in that hole, and we got to see those awful bees hive Yeah, the vampire bats, they lived inside this, like, hive thing, and it was full of these green rocks or crystals. And again, it looked like a giant beehive, but with this green glowy substance in it. It just looked like a giant hornet's nest on the side of a house. And then it was euphoric to hear the boom, boom sound and hear the rumbling sound and see the ancient ziggurat collapse on that little demon nest. Oh, it was satisfying. You just had to be there. And we heard their screams and their cries. And then the hole was sealed up and the area was condemned. And shortly thereafter, Salim was released to go back to his family. And yes, he took the job as an informant. And a couple days after that, me and Mia were on the Stars jet home. And it sure was nice to have me, Mia, Rose, and Jake, as well as Dylan, back in the house. And after I got back to Stars headquarters in September of 2021, I was officially promoted from an 04 to an 05 in Stars, which is a captain. And yeah, I basically had my own unit to patrol. And I started making a little bit more money. And, well, I had already had some royalties that were coming in from my old YouTube videos, and not to mention, I still had just a little bit left from all the money I'd settled with from Markov. So I was doing pretty good. Now, we also wanted to save money on a babysitter, so, well, my stepdad, Bob, had died the year before in August of 2020. So, I called my mom in and I basically asked her, do you want me to buy you an apartment and basically let you, just let you look after my daughter every day? And yeah, it didn't take a genius to figure out what she said. And so, in September 2021, she became an Ethiopian citizen. And yeah, life was good for a while. Me and Mia, we enjoyed playing games together at the shooting range. And Mom enjoyed time with her granddaughter. And the boys, yeah, they had a great time at Stars headquarters. And life was good.